At just 7 years old, my next guest had her first seizure. From there, they developed in frequency. By the time she was 16, she was experiencing as many as 5 seizures a week, sometimes as many as 3 a day. The blackouts were so debilitating that Saskia Haynes' life that she had to drop an A-level because she was constantly in and out of school. It wasn't until 2009, with the help of the charity STARS, that she was diagnosed with postural tachycardia syndrome, or PoTS for short. Now, in 2013, Saskia is training to run the London 10-kilometre blackout walk. I'm really pleased to say that Saskia is with us on the programme this morning, along with the founder and CEO of STARS, Trudy Loban. A very good morning to you both.
Hi.
Let's start with you first, Saskia. We'll come to you in a minute, Trudy. Just tell us how you first started to experience these seizures and blackouts. It must have been a very scary time for you.
It was. I had my first one in the summer of 2008, actually in Guernsey. And obviously with the kind of seizures when I was 7, it was a slightly scary time for it to all be coming back. And then hoped it was a one-off and went to boarding school, and they continued, which was especially difficult when I didn't know what was going on.
I was going to say, at that stage, you still had no diagnosis. That must have made it even more worrying, knowing that you were suffering from these attacks, but had no idea what was causing it.
Yeah, I think it was especially difficult for my family and friends as well. When you're 16, you want to be normal and fit in, and it took about 9 months for me to get the right diagnosis after quite a few misdiagnoses. And I think especially for my family, it was very hard for them to help and go through it and not really understand as well what was happening.
And how did the diagnosis come about? We know that it was thanks to the help of STARS that you were diagnosed with postural tachycardia syndrome. How was that diagnosis reached?
It was actually a friend of my mother's, had a daughter who had a similar thing. She wasn't having the seizures, but she was fainting. And she referred my mum to STARS, who printed out very, very useful leaflets and took it to my neurologist at the time, who was going down a wrong route, which he admitted. And so he referred me to Professor Matthias, who was the one to diagnose me correctly.
Well, let's talk now to Trudy Loban. Trudy, it's a terrible story, the fact that it went undiagnosed for so long. How common are stories like that from your experience?
Sadly, they're very common, and all too often we're receiving inquiries at STARS for people who are suffering with unexplained loss of consciousness, blackouts, fainting, and not being given the correct diagnosis. And for many, it is reassurance. But for others, such as Saskia, it's important that they have a correct diagnosis and that their symptoms are treated. And fortunately, Saskia is one of the lucky ones. People in the UK are very unaware of this disorder, despite it being quite common. And in young women, some estimates put the number of people with the condition as high as 1 in 100. And yet there are so few specialists.
I have to admit that until I started looking at this story, I'd never heard of PoTS. It was not something that I'd even heard of.
No, and we've only got a handful of specialists in the country, so it's important to be referred to one of those. But fortunately, it is now beginning to become more recognised, and through interviews like this and the fantastic fundraising and event that Saskia is undertaking, it will mean that more people will get to hear about PoTS and to start questioning why they're fainting and having movements that mimic a seizure even though it is not a seizure, and for further investigations. And we will help as many people as we possibly can who contact us to be signposted to an expert and go on to be able to lead an active life once they're diagnosed and treated appropriately.
Saskia, we'll come on to the challenge that you've set yourself in a minute, but like anything, the diagnosis is only the start of the solution. What did the treatment involve for you? How quickly were you able to say, I think I'm getting better?
I think it did take a few months. I think it's quite an interesting process. Obviously, there is medication for it, but at the same time, part of the kind of recovery was actually knowing what was wrong. I think once you kind of work out what's wrong with yourself, and obviously the low blood pressure there are different ways of tackling it, such as diet and exercise, which is the route that I did go down, even though I've spoken to people who are on the medication, and that's really helped them. And I think it was really just, it took a few months, but it was when I came back to Guernsey and went to school there for my final year of sixth form. That's when I knew I was getting a lot better.
And do you mind me asking, the treatment that you've had, do you now consider yourself to be free of these symptoms that the PoTS created?
Well, unfortunately, I actually had one yesterday, so not completely free, but they are becoming a lot less frequent, and I'm a lot better at handling them than I was 5 years ago.
And how has it changed your approach to life and the things that you're able to do now?
I think it's really just appreciating when I am well. I have set myself challenges that not just the 10K, but trying to finish my degree, which I did yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I think small challenges like that and really taking things and putting things in perspective and not being able to go out the whole time and not being able to drive, I can't see it too much as a disability. I've just got to enjoy what I can do.
So getting the degree out of the way, I could imagine that was a big challenge. The next challenge you've got is this 10-kilometre run. Tell us about that.
That was an idea I came up with my mum, actually. A lot of that helped me when I was trying to handle the illness was exercise. Running is obviously quite difficult when you have this condition. You can get tired very, very easily. And I really just wanted to set myself another challenge to see if I could do it. And luckily, there's people who, over the last 5 years, have been very helpful and very invested, and they've started donating very generously. And so that really helped. I'm looking forward to it slightly.
Trudy, hearing stories like this, success stories, I think it's fair to say, must be very rewarding for you, knowing that you played a part in that diagnosis and helping Saskia get the treatment that she needed. And I guess it must be extra special knowing that Saskia is now giving back to Stars as well.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's I consider myself extremely lucky that I have a job that I enjoy so much, and the satisfaction when we help people, but the frustration for all those that are not being helped. And as Saskia says, there's not a complete cure or treatment, but it is about managing the condition. And my daughter has the same similar condition, and seeing that these young girls who, for a period of time, they're completely restricted, their lives are dominated by a condition, and then to be able to help them so that they can go on to be leading normal lives is just fantastic, so rewarding. And we are here at stars.org.uk to help anyone with unexplained loss of consciousness, fainting, blackouts, to help restore them back to a person leading a normal life.
And Saskia, when are you actually hoping to complete the run?
I'm aiming for under an hour. I think I actually
Wow.
put 58 minutes. I'm running with my brother and my best friend, so they are being very, very supportive.
And do you know at this stage how much you're hoping to raise for Stars?
Well, I was hoping originally £500, and I've actually raised 1,155. So
Wow, that's
it's over.
that's a brilliant total, and I'm sure that it will be reassuring to anyone who sees what you're doing and hears about the challenge, who have a similar condition, to know that you've found a way of living with it, managing the condition, and that you're able to set yourself these challenges and see them through. It's a great story.
Thank you.
Saskia Haynes and Trudy Loban, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Saskia, just remind us when you're actually doing the run.
9:30 on Sunday.
Well, the best of luck. We look forward to hearing that you've done it in your hours target. It's a great story. Thank you for sharing it with us this morning. Saskia Haynes and Trudy Loban. Trudy is the founder and CEO of Stars. Saskia, as we were hearing there, has the condition postural tachycardia syndrome, a condition that she's coping with and has learnt to live with, and she's now planning to run this 10-kilometre race in honour of Stars and to raise money for Stars, a great total, £1,155 this Sunday morning.